Obviously, with these people coming to town, this is a huge international event. It puts Toronto on the global stage. And with these international people that are coming here, we obviously have to take the steps that we deem necessary to provide that protection for them to visit Canada during this summit. How will that be accomplished? The integrated security unit has security zones, and they will be protected by fences. Now, one thing I want to clarify right now is a lot of people have read out in the media that there is a zone, it's been told, from Queen Street to the lake, from Spadina to Yonge. That is a traffic zone, and it's actually King Street south to the lake, Yonge to Spadina. That is a traffic control zone, and that is going to be affected by the fence perimeters. Those are not the fencing perimeters. The fencing perimeters have not been disclosed yet. My information is we will probably disclose those exact perimeters sometime around the start of June. And the reason we're not doing it until then is obviously for security concerns. We want the less time for some people that are mischief makers to know exactly where those perimeter fence lines will be. So keep in mind what you've read in the newspaper and that, those are the traffic control areas. That simply will be open to business as usual, but it probably will have traffic problems. We will have police officers in the intersections, much like when we used to win the World Series down here at the Rogers Centre back in the early 90s, and we had 55,000 people down there. You used to see police officers in the intersections as opposed to the electronic traffic signals, and the police officers were overriding those and directing you around. That's what that traffic control zone is. So once more, keep in mind, the actual fencing perimeters, the security zones, are much smaller than that. What are these zones? For now, we'll say there's two. One we'll call a red zone, which is the most secure zone, and then there's the outer zone, which is less secure, but it's the largest. And I'm going to start with the in-tight, red, tightly controlled zones. These will be in places such as the Metro Toronto Convention Centre, and we're talking the interior of these buildings. So you have the Metro Toronto Convention Centre where the summit will be held, and you have the hotels where these internationally protected people will be housed. These are red zones. And what takes place in those is a process that's called accreditation. This is an invasive process, but a necessary process. And we say it's invasive in that, first off, police officers, along with the managers, we'll use a hotel for an example, police officers along with managers, security directors, and human resources people at those hotels will identify key staff members that must be there to provide the services to the internationally protected people. Once those people have been identified, they have to be security cleared, which means they will be checked on police databases because we have to ensure that there is no threats to the internationally protected people. This is not a voluntary process, it's mandatory, and if you do not partake, then you won't be there. It's that simple. These people, the photographs are taken, they're issued with security passes and everything that are color-coded, and if they go outside of the color-coded area they're supposed to be in, they'll be immediately challenged by police. So this is only in the in-tight red zones, which is the Toronto Convention Centre and the hotels. And that's the sole area of responsibility of the Royal Canadian Mounted Police, and that is the accreditation process. So that's not voluntary. Thank you. Now, outside of that is a secondary zone, which is controlled by the Toronto Police Service. That secondary, less secure zone, there's a process that we have formulated to assist people that, one, either live in the security zone. Now, this is the Toronto Police Zone, not the red RCMP zone. Those that live in the Toronto Police Zone, they can partake of a voluntary, and I stress a voluntary process, where all we're simply doing is identifying people that, one, either work in the security zone, or two, live in the security zone. That is the requirement. We are offering to provide basically a access card, or I call it an express pass. And what it is, at these security perimeters for the fence lines, there will be many gates to go through. At these gates, if you do not have one of these passes accompanied by photo ID, you will have to line up, and we don't know how long that will take because every person will be asked, first, who are you? Show identification. What is your purpose? Where are you going? That will take time. If you're the second person in that line, you will get through in a few minutes. You could show up at a fence line and you could be 50 or 100 people back, which means you will be delayed for a length of time. This this express pass, what it is, if you have it, you've been identified as one, someone who lives, or two, someone who works in that zone. You show up at the gate on the express line, you show that pass with photo ID, we let you go through. Now, I'm not talking about walking through with a bazooka over your shoulder. You're going to be stopped and asked questions. So we're talking when you show up like that, and that's to try to mitigate the obvious security that we have to perform and try to make it less invasive and less intrusive on the people that have to work in our downtown core, because we get it. We understand. We work down here every day. It's a big, big city, and a lot of people have got to get in there for some very critical business that has to be done. The only time that you'll be stopped and won't be allowed in there is if some, and I stress this, a very, very significant security threat arises. Those gates could close. And if they close, no one is getting in with a pass or without a pass. And sadly, that's just the way that we have to deal with that. Now, granted, those gates will reopen once that threat passes. But I stress again, I must take an extremely significant security threat for us to close those gates, because we understand the impact that will have on our residents and on the businesses contained in those security zones. So I hope that makes you feel a little better. We'll talk about that more in question and answer, I'm sure. To accompany that registration process, oh, by the way, I want to add, it's voluntary and there's no checks in our databases. It's not, we're not interested who you are or anything about you, and that information will be subsequently destroyed. It's just simply to give a person the opportunity, if they wish to partake and not join in those longer lines, an express way to get through the gates. So that's all it is. That traffic area that I was talking about, we have a traffic team led by Staff Sergeant Andy Norrie, who's from our traffic services section here in downtown Toronto. He has a team, and like I said, they're trying to mitigate any traffic congestions and jams that are taking place. And you can understand streets such as King Street, the streetcars will be running, etc. We won't probably be having vehicles parked on there. It just won't be able to occur for the days leading up to the summit, and of course during the summit, simply because of traffic congestion. But traffic will be flowing, pedestrians will be flowing. Some other areas that will be open, the intention is to keep Union Station open, again, unless some significant threat arises, because we understand the GO train, Via Rail, etc. The subways will be running pretty well normally. There may be some short stoppages if some of these internationally protected people are moving quickly over top of a subway line. They may halt the subway for a few minutes while they do that crossing and then reopen it. That also goes with the path system, the concourse in the under the city. That should be open. However, on the weekend, the chances are it may be closed. And it generally is closed most of the weekend anyways for those that use it, as you're well aware. Also, Air Canada Centre is open. The Rogers Centres will be open. The Gardiner Expressway is open. Lakeshore is open. Yonge and Spadina will be open. And like I said, King, Queen, Adelaide, they will be open. So it kind of gives you an idea. But they are in that affected traffic area. So there will be congestion. And like I said, as you get into those security zones, if something significant happens, everything I'm talking about here today could be to the wayside. Because as our unit commander, Tom Russell, who's in charge of the Toronto Police side of the G20 planning team, said, convenience will be trumped by security, unfortunately. But we understand it will take something extremely significant to do that. Thanks, Jennifer. Getting to demonstrations, we're very used in the downtown core of this city to demonstrations, parades, rallies. And as we all know, historically speaking, 99% of our residents that want to go out, they want to send a message, be it to government or to whoever they want, they do it lawfully within the confines of the law, peaceably, and they're very good at that. And they also generally contact us. They ask for our assistance. I'm sure everyone's seen some rally coming down like Labor Day with the police that are there helping them go through intersections and down the sidewalks, etc. We have a very good relationship that has been built up over decades with demonstration and rally groups, and we try to help them out. They try to help us out. And I want to use an example of Vancouver. Out in Vancouver during the Olympics, you saw there was a very peaceful, law-abiding crowd of about 400 people in the downtown core. Sadly, approximately 30 of these people known as Black Bloc. They're the ones that put on the balaclavas, and they attacked some vehicles, damaging them, that had Olympic insignias on them only. They also attacked Hudson's Bay Company downtown and the Royal Bank, which were both sponsors of the Olympics. The Vancouver police responded very quickly, arrested about 20 of the 30 people that were doing this on the spot, and 10 others, we know who they are and there's warrants out for them. So it was a very, very small group that infiltrated a very large, peaceable crowd, and they caused some mayhem. Now the good thing is, the people here generally that we deal with when they have their rallies and demonstrations, they understand and get it, that if they allow that to occur, their message is lost. Canadian people do not tolerate violence and destruction of property. And they know when that does happen, that the whole messaging is lost. Now, just to put you at rest, if there are that small segment of our society that does try to do mischief, I can guarantee you that there will be sufficient security forces on the ground to deal with any inevitability. So sadly, like I said, if these people were not out there in our society, there would be no need for the security presence.